Hello, my name is Mark Bartold. I'm with Bebo Analytics. Um, I'm a consultant for the politicians that are running for office and to try and guide them on the issues that will help them win, as well as try and help their donors out, and as well as the voters that are in need of certain government needs in order to acquire the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, basic food, shelter, the ability to work and feel good about yourselves and raise your families and feel good, educate, whether it's higher education or through training facilities for plumbing or architecture, construction, whatever people are apt to do. Some people are good with their hands, some are good with their brains, and so different aspects of our society need to be addressed and are not being addressed. Now, a good example is the fact that everyone's got different views on what they see and what's going on. During the Trump era, we have, half the people that are taking a more aggressive role of dealing with issues that bothered him for 4 decades. The border security has never been secure. Even 9/11 with George W. Bush, there was no lock the border down, which was amazing to me because I thought at that time that they would have at least put the military on the border to make sure people don't cross over. But 2 terms of W. Bush and there was nothing Republican. Then you had Obama came in for two terms, and we had a financial crisis at the end of George W. and Obama pulled us out of that and extended the Bush tax cuts. But like Al Sharpton had brought up that the black communities did not get any attention at the time, and he was unable to go up against the black president, the first black president. So the leadership of the African American communities have struggled to even help their own communities. Most of the cities are run by Democrats, and when you have a large population of people, it's hard sometimes to get all the services to everyone, and crime is going to be higher in big cities just by per capita. Rural areas have crime too, but you don't see it as prevalent in as much as the news is not as available in rural areas to even to address the crime that actually does go on. The local Walmarts have theft of 3 to 5% wherever you go, and if you're 90% white areas, chances are 90% of the crime is committed by white people. So the stereotyping of Hispanics being criminals, all of them, just like all the Gaza people are Hamas terrorists, even 3-year-olds. The narrative is always all or nothing for some reason, and nobody challenges the views that are being broadcast out, and just to say, no, that's not right, is not good enough anymore. There has to be more feedback of addressing the false narratives that keep going out there. Now, there again, why are criminals walking around? A lot of it had to do with the jail systems and being too full, over capacity, and the immigrant policies on both sides of the aisle have failed to address how to process the people, to throw the money at processing people quicker so that we know who these people are and can turn them around quicker than to wait 2 to 5 years before you realize that, hey, wait a minute, you really need to go back to your country. Or, but in the meantime, they do get a phone and a credit card for food, and they get food assistance and so on. In which case, of course, the alternative to giving them those options is you're unable to get a hold of this person. They're unable to contact immigration offices because they have no phone. There's also the food aspect where what do? Have food camps, have camps that are being built now for criminals. You would have to have regular camps for regular people that are trying to immigrate over. And there's it's just too labor intense. You have to bring the food in, and how much food, and whereas Gaza would love to have food, but anyway. So on top of the fact of all these false narratives that go on, policy has failed on both sides of the aisle. I don't, it's the cheap labor aspects, it's the labor laws that have caused this rift, I believe, because of the, like horse farms need the horses attended to 7 days a week, and, there's other labor-intense jobs that a lot of Americans have gotten lazy to do. I've witnessed actually some Mexican people that have come over. For years they've been in the country, they got their kids, and their kids grew up, and they became citizens, they did it legally. There's kids have grown up, and it's like out of a sudden they've become Americanized in the relation that when they first came over, very hardworking, very good. Now they're like more laid back, more heavyweight, so on and so forth, and they don't like the illegals coming over either because they know that it makes them look bad, and so on. And they did it the right way, and they feel. So there's a lot of the immigrant community is like, why would they vote for Trump that wants to get rid of the illegals? Well, a lot of the legal immigrants were upset too. So it wasn't just white people. It was also the immigrant community that was the legal ones that were upset. Now, of course, now the legal ones are being attacked, so that's not good. And I don't know why you have to. Other than the fact, of course, the false narrative that every immigrant is a criminal and rapist and all this other crap just turns out to be false. And of course, the numbers are far smaller. If you have 20,000 illegal immigrants that are rapists and criminals, it's not 20 million, And so, so once they wrapped up about 20,000 immigrants that were violent and shipped them off to who knows where, then they were left with, now who do we get? So then now they go after the legal immigrant. And so, and the immigrants that are still in the process of becoming either an immigrant or green card status, work visas, and so on. So with the backlog, people wind up in the country past their visa date because they cannot get a court date or a date with the immigration officers because there's such a backlog. And so that's what you fix, right? You fix the backlog and you're done. So, you know, the video I was going to do is not even what the subject is. It's just, there's always another subject every hour around. You know, I mean, it's just amazing to me. But at any rate, the politicians failed the constituents, which is their voter, right? The voting base has been neglected and has been lied to on so many occasions. Now, NAFTA is a prime example of just a smoke and mirror situation there, right? Bill Clinton had the 3 years of surplus. The only time in the U.S. had a surplus, not a deficit, in 250 years that this country's been around. And, you know, like everyone after that kept saying, what can we do? Well, George W. Bush, as soon as he came in, put the Bush tax cuts, got rid of the deficit, got rid of the surplus by giving rich people money. Reagan started the old let's give the rich the money instead when Reagan first came in office. So, you know, the tax situation has been pushed onto the middle class since Reagan. Reagan started it by cutting the taxes on the rich, which, you know, 90% was pretty high for rich people to pay anyway. So when he dropped it to 70, that would have been great to stay at 70 on the high end, because they have, you know, a millionaire, you know, has got a lot of money. I mean, if you could make $100,000 a year at that time, that would have been great, right? But they were making 5 to 7 times more after they paid their 70% tax. So, but, you know, Reagan's second term, he had to cut more, you know, and of course, taxes pay for stuff, and roads, bridges were suffered because of the cuts, because a lot of the roads and bridges takes all 3 phases of government. It takes local, state, and federal dollars. So if you eliminate federal dollars from local road construction, bridge construction, then it's a lot harder to come up with the money to actually do projects like that. Or instead of 20 miles, you do 5 miles. And it takes 4 times longer, and it just never gets done, right? Endless construction. I guess we all have seen that. So at the end of the day, the federal dollars is needed in things like that. Education dollars, Alabama, 35% of the education dollars that they use in the state of Alabama for elementary to high school and college, even colleges, trade schools, community colleges, 35% comes from the federal government, from the education department, federal. So if you decide to get rid of the education department, you're eliminating essentially the same situation like roads and bridges. You're going to wind up with inability to educate, you know, an already population of people that are tracked as the bottom 5 states. Matter of fact, 18 of the bottom 20 states in education are red states, Republican states. And it's because Republicans, since 1985, Mitch McConnell was in Congress, was the party of no. No, you can't have this. No, you can't have that. No, no, no. Yes to military spending. It's 2025. And even though Trump ran on a peace and anti-war message as one of his many misleading messages, he winds up adding $149 billion to the defense spending that basically gets into $1 trillion a year in defense spending. We've got a huge aircraft carriers coming off the line, in which case, of course, China is our main adversary. Russia isn't even honestly, Russia is Moscow. Take Moscow off the map, you're done. But China is a major problem for the United States as far as an adversary, and because all the different military exercises they keep having, we keep losing. We lose every time. And so large aircraft carriers are the only way to offset it, but even those are almost being wiped out as being useful, much like the battleship became useless after Pearl Harbor. The aircraft carrier took over there. Now you got drones and missiles. Drones, missiles, and satellite jamming systems, computer systems get jammed up. Where, to me, I almost think they need to go to computerless planes so that they can't be jammed. But then, it's there's just too much. Technology has taken over so much of what's going on that they're out trying to outsmart each other, and it just and then while we're having like our greatest adversary being China, we buy most of our goods from China. So, as far as let's bring the factories back to the U.S., it requires cheap labor, but with the automation of factories, you have robots building stuff anyway. So what's the difference between a robot building a car in China and a robot building a car in Detroit? So, you just need mechanics or people to oil things on the machinery. So there's really not too much of a difference there, but how many jobs are there? It's like there used to be a room full of typists to make copies of paper. Now one copier took out a whole room of secretaries typing. And so the same thing with factories. You got 10,000 people in a factory that are being replaced with maybe 200 people that are basically doing maintenance on the equipment and the facility. So at the end of the day, there's going to be less and less need for workers, which is great for companies. I mean, corporations are really excited about it. Bill Gates even said that we'll only need 20% of a workforce. And then, 20% of a workforce, okay, so what are we supposed to be doing? Like just sitting at the house? I mean, we don't want socialism, but, what are we supposed to be doing? If only 20% of our workforce, see right now 50% of the workforce works. The other 50% does not. The other 50% is either retired or their children or they have disabilities that keep them from being able to work and so on. And then the unemployment rate that is just so low. And if you really have to say anything. It's very low. I mean, it's just a normal turnover rate of unemployment. Some people are just unemployable, even though they're trying to get employed. You know, they haven't made the welfare system because they don't think they should be on welfare, but you know, sometimes people just don't have the skill set to be able to get hired. So, you know, and that's where, you know, of course, the immigrant labor, you know, picking vegetables and fruit and everything else, and you know, working construction jobs, which, you know, I guess some are kind of scary jobs. Some Americans are just not, you know, fit, as it were, to do those type of jobs. I know I can't. I sweat on a dime. You know, if it's 80 degrees or higher, I'm about to pass out from heat. So being out in 100-degree weather, you know, that just doesn't do it for me. I have to be indoors to work. So, you know, someone's got to do those jobs, and using the immigration system by expanding it, like in my book, Middle Class Jobs, I've got an immigration part of the chapter that talks about hiring more immigration officers to process people, and as well as to do more work visas, so that you have the seasonal workers go back and forth from Mexico. But see, as they pay for those things, so that that payment, you know, will pay for those immigration officers, and you know, more lawyers and judges to facilitate through the immigrants that are trying to get away from dictatorships, which, you know, out of a sudden the United States is faced in as being a dictatorship as well. Some people may argue that fact. Some people like the fact, of course, that Trump's the dictator because they, you know, it's their guy. But if Hillary Clinton had won and became a dictator, I think they wouldn't have been so happy. And I know I wouldn't have been happy either, you know, because I believe that there shouldn't be, you know, a king, as it were, or a queen. And having too much power to one person is not a good thing in this country. This country is divided in many ways. It's not just Democrat, Republican. It's also class. It's also regional. You know, New York or Texas or North Carolina or California, Montana, Alaska, Hawaii. And then, you know, there's Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam. You know, we're a variety of people. We're a melting pot of people. We're a nation of immigrants. And for us to be going after immigrants and kicking them out and sending them to countries they have never even been to, no one's even been to. You know, I'll say what Trump's saying, no one's ever been to that country. Like recently, there was some country in Africa I never heard of. You know, they just sent a bunch of people there, and it's like, what are you doing? You know, I mean, like, it's like, you know, just to be able to go and travel there, you can't, a lawyer, or, I mean, how do you even, like, that person's just like, they're stuck in a prison in the middle of nowhere in Africa. And I mean, it's just, I just can't, I just don't understand it. You know, I mean, my dad was an immigrant. He was in the military for 20 years, in the Army. He went 2 tours to Vietnam. My mom was born in Germany. They both met in Buffalo, New York. They both became citizens. Uh, and so I was born in this country. But by Trump standards, they could probably deport me, uh, especially if I was Hispanic, right? But that's just the beginning. It doesn't matter. Like they ran out of criminal people to pick up, so now they're going after the legals, and then after that they'll go after Democrats. I'm sure. I'm sure of it. Which actually they already are, right? And yeah, I mean, they really have nothing left to go on. The only thing they're going to be talking about now, because see, they do nothing. Congress actually did nothing, right? Trump said do this, and they said okay, and did it. Even though a lot of them were like, no, we don't really want to do this. We can't do this. We're done. And then they vote for it anyway, because they have to, because of the voter, right? The voter is saying we want Trump to be dictator, as far as the ones that voted for him. They want him to be a dictator. They don't like the government. So Trump's destroyed the government. So the government of Congress is basically marginalized to zero. They're nothing. So that's one branch gone. The real criminal of them all is the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is supposed to go by the Constitution. And they've been going after the Constitution. They've been destroying the Constitution. They've been burning the Constitution every step of the way. Every time Trump sends something to them, they say, okay, yeah, you can be king. We don't care. We don't care. We want you to be king. I mean, what the heck is going on? It's the Supreme Court that's allowed Trump. The Supreme Court is supposed to be the safeguard of the Constitution, and it's gone. There's no due process. People are being arrested by people en masse. I tell you, it'd be so easy, right? Just get some ice things on a jacket or whatever. Make your own. You can, right? And just cover a mask. People don't know who you are. They just assume, oh, there's some ICE agents. Yeah. You can go around and kidnap anybody you want now. Sure, you can kidnap anybody. Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. There's going to be a bunch of people that are going to be masked up, all fatigued up, looking like military and everything else. Throw ice, just put ice on there, who cares, right? They just go around. Even the cops will assist you. Are you kidding me? They could say, well, we need to get into this bank. There's a guy in the bank. We need to go get him, right? They'll go in the bank to get this guy. They'll grab whoever's Hispanic, they'll grab. Then they'll grab the money out of the drawers and go off and, the cops will be outside, right? They'll hold off the crowds while they're robbing the bank, right? And kidnapping. They'll have to kidnap one or two just for the show. I mean, there's like 20 or 30 people show up. They grab one guy. I mean, it's just unreal. What gets me too is they'll grab him out of the courthouse. What the heck is that? Oh, we're going to go grab this person that's trying to fill out or trying to talk to the judge about an immigration thing. And even the judge is going, what are you doing? I still got to see this guy. Then they arrest the judge for getting in the way of them doing whatever. I mean, they're just kidnapping people. That's all they're doing. They're kidnapping people off the streets. Whether they're legal or not, doesn't matter. I mean, look. How many Garcias are there? How many Lopez's are there? How many, Jesus. It's a pretty common name. So, they'll just pick up Juan Garcia. How many of those are there, right? So they can just pick up anybody. It doesn't matter. And that's the thing. It doesn't even matter. It could be John Smith. Boom, pick him up and let's go. I mean, they've even picked up Native Americans saying that they're Mexican. I mean, it's just, it's just a really dangerous time now for a lot of people, and uh, and people just turn things off every time Nazi Germany comes up. But it's the most accurate situation. I mean, I suppose you could go back to Mussolini. Mussolini was dictator, and that's where Hitler got his idea of being a dictator, because before he did go by the political spectrum. He was trying to work through the political system, and he did. He was part of the political system. He was head of a party and this and that. They did the right things, but then they became a dictator, and then once you become a dictator, it's over, because now you're just being authoritarian, and you're just it doesn't matter. Rights don't mean anything. Law nothing. And the founding fathers were not happy with that scenario, as far as they didn't want any more dictators, no more kings, no more queens, no more popes either. It's in different times of history. There was a pope that was over people, over countries, and so on and so forth. But also, as far as the religion goes, Muslim religion came about around 700 A.D., I think. And, the Catholic, Christian, Jewish, what are the Christians, doing about, I just don't understand, although I've began to understand a little bit. A lot of people are believe in God, and there's a lot of people that don't believe in God. And you assume some of these people believe in God, and they don't. They just don't. And so when you try and put them all in one basket, as it were, just like a Palestinian, they're all terrorists or whatever, they're all Hamas, they're not. Just like just different things like that. Not everyone is Christian. Not everyone's Catholic. Not everyone believes in God. So when different things happen that show, well, that's not very godly, or Jesus wouldn't do something like this, or you would probably lock Jesus up and throw him away, or whatever. It's like, well, to some people, so what? Who cares? But a lot of this has to do with they're disgruntled with the fact that over the years, over these 4 decades, people their lives have not gotten any better, and it's a displacement to blame other people for it, when the reality is that the politicians have worked with the rich people to get them richer. The millionaires became billionaires, and the billionaires are fixing to become trillionaires. And that's just an obscene amount of money off to one side, to where the everyone else, the working people, have not gotten any better. Not in that exponential form. Like before, 1 week of pay was equivalent to a mortgage payment, or let's say rent even, right? So if you make $300 a week, then your rent should be $300 a week. Nobody's rent's $300 a week. So you could double it and say, well, every 2 weeks then, $600 a week, $600 a month, or $600 a month. How many's mortgage is $600 a month? How many's rent is $600 a month? Next to nobody's. And so now it's like, even with a two people household, to try and make the 1 week, doesn't work. So now it's like it takes 2 people, 2 weeks pay, $1,200 a month is probably about right in some people, for a mortgage / or rent. So we're still in an economic bind of saying that It's taken two people 2 weeks' pay when it used to be one person 1 week's pay for housing, just for housing, let alone food, gas, clothing, everything else. And so you're talking 4 times, you need 4 times the pay. Now, minimum wage is $7.25 an hour in this country, nationally. $7.25. State of North Carolina, 10th largest state of the union, $7.25 an hour is the state minimum wage. So in reality, it should be 4 times that. So 4 times that would be $30 an hour. That's crazy. $30 an hour is a lot of money, and a candidate that's running for mayor of New York has offered that as a minimum wage, $30 an hour, which in New York for sure you'd need at least. And so it's gotten to where, like, even the $7.25 an hour, no one even talks about that. The discussion of economics is never even analyzed or discussed, other than the fact is like, well, our food's too high, or let's give rich people tax cuts. And I just don't understand too why the working people are saying, yes, we need to give rich people tax cuts. Why is that a thing? It's like, okay, let's get rid of waste, fraud, abuse. Okay, let's do that, right? But then let's give rich people tax cuts. Let's say no on that. Why don't we just stick with waste, fraud, and abuse, right? Why do we have to give rich people money? It's so stupid. It does nothing, right? And then it's like, well, what about deficit spending? All the waste, fraud, and abuse, you know how much it was? Less than the $149 billion raised that was given to defense spending. Like, maybe the $49 billion was waste, fraud, and abuse, which on a multi-trillion-dollar budget, $49 billion, it's nothing. It's like just common theft at Walmart, 3 to 5%. Nothing. It's nothing. And then you cut because, oh, well, there's been some fraud in USAID. There's been some fraud in Medicaid, right? Like hundreds of billions of dollars. There's been, like 50 billion, maybe. There hasn't been. There's been like maybe 20 billion. And they had a case, I think. They got one case. And I guess it's because they needed to bring something up. So they brought, a case that's the largest that's ever been. Which I'm not sure if it's as large as the largest one that was before that, which was with Senator from Florida, U.S. Senator from Florida's company, that was the largest fraud of Medicaid in U.S. history. And he's a U.S. Senator, and it got reelected. And it's like Republicans can do whatever they want as far as Republican politician is as safe can be. What they do is they do nothing, and then they just complain about Democrats, and then they complain that nothing gets done, even though they're the ones doing nothing, right? It's like, oh yeah, well, we got the tax cut for the rich. Oh yeah, we got the defense spending. Yeah. Oh yeah, we got the waste, fraud, and abuse, even though we're the ones that have companies that do that. We're the ones that are the corrupt ones that are taking the money from rich people to drop bombs on kids in Gaza, or to, to eliminate competition, eliminate the small farmer. Republicans get rid of small farmers with big farmers coming in and taking over because they can't sell the food. The food program in this country, cutting it, right? Cutting the food. They were talking about throwing out like $11 billion worth of food just throwing it out because they don't want to give it out. So now it's like the American farmer is not going to be able to produce that anymore because they don't need it anymore because we're not going to be sending food out the country anymore. So now it's like, yeah, it stays in the country. But it's like the what was being produced is extra anyway. It's like a closet full of clothes, right? And then you got the Goodwill. So you go to Goodwill and you get more clothes, even though you don't need the clothes. You know, doesn't do anything. So what happens is the party of no Republicans have gotten away with quite a bit. Again, back to NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. Bill Clinton signed. Republicans voted for it, and in the House and Senate, they're the ones that voted for it. The two senators from North Carolina voted against it because of the furniture industry, Republican. But other than those two, most of the other Republicans voted for NAFTA. The two Democrats from California voted against NAFTA. And then most of the Democrats voted against NAFTA. They didn't vote for it. It was the Republicans that voted for it. If it wasn't for the Republican Congress voting for NAFTA, it would have never passed. It would have never passed. If Republicans were so high and mighty on the let's keep the jobs here, NAFTA would have never passed. And the country was doing well. I mean, we had a surplus for 3 years. But since Bill Clinton, George W. comes in, tax cut for the rich, $100 billion a year, by the way. And instead of a war tax, which I would have paid a war tax for being attacked on 9/11, and that would have helped pay for all the stuff. A war tax would have paid for the getting Bin Laden, right, after 20 years. And then Obama came in and basically he had 55 votes on his side, right? Of course, 10 of them were Blue Dog Democrat, much like Manchin, right? That basically votes red. So in a way, it was almost like he only had 45 to the 45 Republican and 10 Blue Dog Democrat. So it was kind of a rough situation there for him, but he still could have got, well, actually the last minimum wage increase was under Obama. Thank you for the $7.25, Obama. So then the ACA, the Obamacare, cost the Democrats 10 seats, Senate seats. So that killed them for any kind of anything. But the money at least is coming in, you know, at least some money's coming in to help pay for the medical costs. And so instead of just emergencies with nobody paying, they were able to get some money from some people to pay in. And of course the government was paying in some money too to help fund the hospitals that needed to be done. And had some regional hospitals were built to help where, you know, people didn't have to go 100 miles to get to a doctor. You know, it could be someone's closer by. And so even veterans, same thing. If the veterans had a VA that was greater than 100 miles, then they could go to the local one. So all this is taxpayer money too, but with the Obamacare, the problem that I had with it is the fact that it was still attached to Wall Street. And so, there's just Wall Street is just like a black hole, is the best way to describe it. It just sucks up money, and the more money the market gets, the more leverage that companies could use to borrow money from banks to build factories and stuff like that. But how much factory building has been going on around here? Next to none. Where are they built? They're built elsewhere. And so, yeah, bring America back, bring the jobs back. It's a good idea up to a point, only because of the fact that, the added aspect of having stuff built elsewhere is the pollution that it creates. Lead paint and just chemicals that go into the water supplies and so on. The air, well, they're polluting anyway in China, so why not? Can't we just go ahead and pollute here? And my thing is well, we don't want polluted water because then you can't drink it without getting cancer, And so it's more or less a deal that, like if you have all the pollutants in China, you don't have to worry about them being here. So there's different aspects and ways of looking at things. Of course, is it fair to pollute and, give cancer to Chinese people just so you can buy a sign that says welcome? I don't know. I can't really, we're just going to bring cancer from pollutants into water here by bringing those factories back here. And, but, again, even with the automation, right, how many more jobs are we going to really create? We'll never get back the jobs back that we had before because it's too costly, even still yet, to build in the U.S. than it is to build in China. So, the costs and the tariffs right now. Right now, we're looking at tariffs that are just so high. I don't, like 10% tariff is equal to, like, say, 10% tax, right? And then on top of it, the company's going to have to tack on a little more. As a matter of fact, I paid 20% more in my groceries at Walmart last week. 20% more, and that's a lot of money. It's not chump change. For like food, basic necessities of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, shelter, right? In which case rents have gotten so high that you can't live anymore. Food's 20% higher. Now you can't even hardly eat anymore. You can't eat as much, which of course some people could go on a diet, right? Clothing, in this country, people they got so much clothes, they could live on the clothes they got probably for the rest of their lives. Probably could do without clothing. There's just so many clothes. I got 2 closets full of clothes. I never have to buy any clothes. So, at the end of the day, the food, shelter, the cost is way higher than your 2% inflation rate. That I think the Fed, Trump's been beating up on. 2.7% was actually the last thing. I think Trump's criticism, of course, is always the opposite direction of what I feel in most cases. And he wants interest rates lowered when, that just creates more inflation. And I think that interest rates should not be raised because the interest rate is probably about right at this point. I think it's around 3.5% to 4% at the mortgage rates, and that's fine as far as I'm concerned. I don't. I think the inflation's going to spike like crazy because I think they're dumbing it down somehow because, like I said, the Walmart, and I guess it just happened last week, right? So in the next quarter, there's going to be a major bump in the inflation rate. I guarantee it. I got my taxes in. North Carolina, 10th largest state. So my taxes are, guess what? 30% higher. So 30% more on my taxes on my property, city and county. That's going to cause some inflation, right? So now, right, my insurance, I don't even know what that's going to be. So at the end of the day, inflation is going to spike like. I mean, I can't see how it can't go to 10%. I mean, I 20% higher in groceries, 30% higher in mortgage, which means rents, right? Like someone that's rents out apartments, their insurance is going to go up too. Insurance, their taxes, and everything else. They have to go up on rents at least 20, 30%. You know, on if you're paying $1,000, that's probably $300 more, from $1,000 to $1,300. Or if you're paying $1,500 now, you'll be paying close to $2,000, right? From $1,500 to $2,000. Now you're talking a whole month's pay. So, now it's like you're doubling the cost of living in a matter of like days. I mean, honestly, within 90 days, our inflation is definitely going to be 10%. It's just going to spike. They analyze the stuff. They don't know what the tariffs are going to do yet. But how can you not? Like, it's going to be at least 10%. So the tariff cost is still going to be at least, I'd say at least 3 to 5%. I mean, I think the Fed wanted to raise the rates, but they can't because Trump wants them lower, and they know that won't work. I think they know it's going to spike. I think they know it is, but they can't do nothing because Trump is like such a dictator about it. But to see the other way to deal with inflation is you tax the rich. That's how you do it, because that tax money curbs them from spending on yachts that are $500 million or houses that are like $100 million each. Like they get multiple houses that are millions, tens of millions of dollars everywhere. I mean, Bezos just had a wedding in Italy. Like what? You can't have it in L.A. or New York or Chicago or Miami. You have to go to Italy. It's like, what do you need a tax cut for if he's just going to spend it in Italy? His tax cuts for the next 10 years was spent in a marriage wedding in Italy. He don't need no tax cut. And they got too much money as it is. Elon Musk just had 9 rockets blow up in a row. And guess who's paying for that? The taxpayer. Because we're subsidizing his stupid SpaceX crap. We subsidize his Tesla cars. We subsidize his solar panel. Everything. Every company that he owned is subsidized by the U.S. taxpayer, except for Twitter, in which he made X. And boy, X is right, man. He X'd that company out. It's just unbelievable. But no, it's still around, believe it or not, because people like to. It's an easier platform. I'm on Blue Sky, but it's not as easy as Twitter is. People still say it's Twitter. It's just weird to say X. I'm on X. But at any rate, the rich get richer, and the voter is allowing it to happen, right? So you got the anti-government people that put Trump in because they don't like the government. Trump was just saying, forget the government. I hate Republicans and blah, blah, blah. And then, they say cut the, let's cut taxes for the rich, and yeah, sure, let's do that. Oh yeah, we're going to take food away from everybody that needs it. You know, yeah, we don't want an education department because we don't want people to be educated, and we don't want people to be learning about how slavery was in this country, and we don't want people to know that there were American Indians here before Columbus. Matter of fact, Columbus didn't even make it to the U.S. He was on the islands, but he never made it to the United States, not the land. North America, he never set foot in North America. But you make a holiday for him, and for whatever reason, right? Like Indigenous Peoples Day makes more sense to have. In which case, it's like, I don't know, it's just like a death, right? Like you got Martin Luther King Day, which brings me to what I was supposed to do in this video in the first place. Is Martin Luther King is my hero, and because he represented, he had the Poor People's Campaign, which Bishop Barber in Raleigh, North Carolina, has picked up the Poor People's Campaign, and every Monday he has Moral Monday. Anyway, plug there for him. Great guy. You need to listen in to him. He is excellent. He's for the working people. Martin Luther King was for the poor. In which case most African American people were poor back then in the 60s, and so, but there was also poor white people that and that's what the movement was. It was a class war type situation of needing minimum wage was part of the deal too. Like we need more pay, and that's how you can really help the African American community as well as the white community. 73% of this country is white, and almost I guess a third of the country is in poverty. So you put the numbers together, and it's not just African American and Hispanics that are poor, it's white people are poor too. And so there's the need of education, and education leads to better jobs. I mean, if someone has a high school education, they're able to get jobs easily. Someone without a high school education is very limited at jobs, right? So then if you have some college or a college, then you got better advantage and you get better pay than a high school educated person. Master's degrees, doctorates, so on and so forth. It's exponential, right? But also in the trades, you got a plumber, someone that's a plumber or a carpenter. If they're good with their hands and able to do stuff like that, they're going to get a better job. They'll prove themselves on the job and get the raises that they need, or they may wind up starting their own business because of their abilities that so well that they're able to go on and start their own business through that type of activity. And so then there's the jobs that are labor intense, garbage pickup, like the garbage people strike and everything else. They're not going to get as much money because of the skill set situation, education level, and everything else. But they have a right to live too, right? Just because someone is not smart or someone that's not skilled, but they're a hard worker, it's kind of unfair in a way that they shouldn't be able to have the ability to survive, to be able to have a family, to raise a family with a certain amount of dignity, right? And so because of the lesser wage, this is where we wind up having the food assistance, education assistance, and so on, is for those people that, just are not skilled or not educated enough to get the better paying jobs. But they still got to be able to live. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you got to have the basics of food, shelter, clothing. And if you can't have food and shelter, it's the pyramid collapses if you have people on the bottom that are unable to if they're all on the streets like San Francisco and so on. It's not good to have that, and that's where the failure of a lot of the politicians were like, look, you just can't have that. You got to get some work programs or something, get them off the streets. You can't have people on the streets. I'm in a rural area, and we've got some people that they're every day just sitting around doing nothing, and they're young. These people are in their like 20s, 30s, doing nothing, and they need to be working. And I'm going to be proposing that some of the candidates, because I'm and it's not to say I'm like, oh, I'm a Republican. Like, it seems like such a Republican standpoint. But the reality is it's like, it's societal breakdown. If you allow people to do nothing, it's not productive for a society to have people lazing around, the Native Americans, they moved around, through the seasons. They made everything, they did, they were the most productive people on the planet. I mean, other civilizations weren't as productive. I mean, what's productive about, although I guess you have to say like the Aztecs though, right? The pyramids. What are the pyramids? I mean, how productive is a pyramid, right? And but as far as the Native Americans, they were very productive, and I'm in the mindset that Native Americans need their land back, but the video's gone much longer than I probably should have, and my main point of the video, I'll have to do another video on. I mean, I just had all this bummed up because there was a bunch of stuff going on that didn't need to happen. The Alcatraz in Florida, I mean, swampland, 100+ degree, 100% humidity, sweatbox area, 32 people in cages, 3 toilets. It's so inhumane. It's ridiculous. And then on top of the deportation to countries that I never heard of, and I know of a lot of countries. There's 187 countries. 185 of them were tariffed. 2 of them were not. Belarus and Russia were not tariffed. For some reason, Trump decided not to tariff the Russian Federation. But at any rate, even Ukraine got tariffed. At any rate, my name is Mark Bartold, Bebo Analytics. I will have more videos up. I've got other videos already up. And I encourage you to check them out. I'll be posting another video very soon here. I just had some other stuff I had to go through, but the politicians are not doing what needs to be done. The Democrats do need to protect themselves more. They don't defend themselves enough. But we do not want kings in this country. We want the voter needs to wake up and really understand what they're voting for. And voting for rich people to have tax cuts is just ridiculous when you need the tax money from the rich in order to fund the wars that we do to defend ourselves. Thank you again.